Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to the Real Money Coach Show. It is Tuesday at 8 p.m. Man, it looks like I got a little bit of lag on this internet. Looks like it's going on, but hopefully you all can hear me okay, see me okay. Put in the chat where you are watching from. What part of the country, what city, what state are you watching from? It's kind of weird from looking at this because it's like one of those old Chinese movies. I say something, and then the words come out a little bit later. You know the old kung fu movies. Y'all used to watch those movies. Come on, I'm not the only one. Y'all tell me what's going on. Listen, I'm really excited about the information you guys are going to get tonight. It's very, very important. And one of the things that we know is this: we know that small businesses are the backbone of our country, right? I'm a small business owner. I know many of you are small business owners. Y'all ain't told me where y'all at yet. Y'all haven't put it in the chat box where you watching from. But small business is very important, and they employ so many businesses. And we think about big businesses like the Amazons and the big airlines and the Fortune 500 companies, but the mom and pop shops, right? The little shops, the ones that we wanted you to support on Small Business Saturday. Harvey Jones, thank you for being here out of Birmingham, Alabama, right? So we want to support small business owners. We want to support authors like Harvey Jones, um, his wonderful book Behind the Cross, and we want to support Black entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs and others. But that is the backbone of our country. That is the backbone of our economy is small businesses. And so we don't want to get that twisted. So we're going to really be talking about that tonight. We're going to be talking about small businesses. We're going to talk about how small businesses can advocate for themselves, how you can help us advocate for small business. I'm talking about the small business in your neighborhood. And we talk all this time we talk a lot about Black Wall Street and these type of things. And there were many Black Wall Streets across the country. Matter of fact, today I was in a meeting with some city officials, Marlon Smith and Dr. George Frazier, among some others. And we're talking about Brooklyn Village that was here in Charlotte. It was that area of town where you had thriving Black businesses, insurance companies, banks, of course, our barber shops, beauty shops, all those types of things, hospital, doctors' offices, attorneys, all this in Brooklyn Village. And they're actually bringing Brooklyn Village back. And Don Peoples, which some of you may recognize that name, Don Peoples is doing a major project here in Charlotte called Brooklyn Village. They're looking to break ground next year. And we have some exciting things that we are going to hopefully partner along with him to bring along with a vision Dr. George Frazier has. And so it's about honoring Black businesses, and so we want to support that, and we want you to support that, especially now, because right now you have this shopping season, and if we look at the numbers, there were more people shopping from Thanksgiving to Cyber Monday than any other year. I mean, you're talking about a ton of people, millions of people. But how much of that money has been spent with small businesses, minority-owned business, women-owned business, those types of businesses? And then we know a lot of our businesses have taken a real hit due to COVID and that type of thing. And so we're going to unpack some of those things. And what I want to do is, if you're listening, whether you're listening to this live or you're listening to the replay, I want you to put into the chat the name of your business. Put in the chat the name of your business. I want you to put in the website, social media posts, whatever that is. Dante, I want you to put your business in. I want us to put our businesses in there so that people know about our business. Let's support small business. Let's support particularly minority small businesses tonight. My co-host is not going to be with us tonight because she's in a conference working on her business. And you guys know Michelle very well. And so tonight we're just going to go into talking again about small business. One of the things and maybe when our guests come on and we'll maybe talk about this a little bit more. But one of my team members sent me this article about reparations, and I don't know if you guys have seen it, but you can go look for it in a article called Revolt. But Rhode Island has passed a reparations program. Now we know the first reparations program was passed by Evanston, Illinois. And then also in Asheville, North Carolina, was a reparations memorandum that was passed. This one in Rhode Island, they're actually going to be giving out checks. $10 million in reparations was approved in their budget in November. Now, here's the thing that some people are up in arms about, is that you don't have to be black to get the check. I'm like, wait a minute. You got reparations in the name of slavery and what's done to us. Native Americans, they included in that. But if you're under a certain income level, you can still get the reparations check, whether you are a descendant of slavery or Native Americans or not. And so some people are like, well, what the heck? I mean, what this really make any sense? To have reparations and then it be available to anyone? I don't know what your thoughts are about that, but kind of caught me kind of peculiar. Yeah, man, for real. And I'm like, that just does not make any sense. And this was based on a 194-page report that detailed the city's ties to slavery. That's why they passed it. But if you meet under a certain income limit, you can get the reparations. I don't know. We seem to be doing some things kind of backwards. So, but that's what's going on. And I want to announce a couple things for you guys. As you guys, many of you know who've been listening, I do have the radio show that comes on at 7:30 a.m. on Saturday mornings. Now, listen, most Saturday mornings, I'm barely up myself. I get it, right? Saturday morning's a day to sleep in and all that good stuff. Well, I got great news for you. We are just about done with actually moving that, where we're still going to have Saturday morning. But what's going to happen is that Saturday morning show is going to be reissued as a podcast. And it's going to be available on all of the podcast channels that you watch. Apple, listen to Apple, iHeart, SoundCloud, what's another one? Spotify. It's going to be available on all of them. We're just about done with all of the technical stuff on the background. So by the time we come next week, we'll be able to actually share and let you know that that is up and running. So I'm excited about that as we expand our audience, because the format of our show now is that our guest that we have here on Tuesday night, usually there's an interview with that person that airs on Saturday morning, kind of give you a little teaser, give you a little bit of what to expect when you come back on Tuesday. Well, we're going to be able to do that. And the next phase of this is also knowing that you can go back to YouTube and watch our shows. You have to click on the live tab. Well, our next project that we'll be working on is actually taking this show on Tuesday and actually reducing it down to sound bites so that it's about a 30-minute video that will be posted on YouTube. And that way, because this is what I need, folks. If you're listening, this is what we need. Right now, we're at about 720 subscribers on YouTube. We need to get that to 1,000. We need to get that to 1,000 subscribers. So I'm asking for your help to do that. To subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors. Subscribe to the Real Money Coach YouTube channel. Let's get that to 1,000. Now, the other thing, speaking of 1,000, is more to come. and I'm still really, really, really excited about this, you guys, is that we officially are calling it now the Saving Money Challenge. The Saving Money Challenge. Really working behind the scenes to get some things in place, but you will see that a lot. Hashtag Saving Money Challenge, savingmoneychallenge.com, where we're going to help at least 1,000 people save at least $100 a month, because we know that statistics say that 42% of Americans have less than $1,000 saved. And so we're going to change that. We got 3 generations that we can change that, 3 decades rather, because the study shows that in 2053, that the average median Black family wealth will be 0. So if we kick this off in 2023, that gives us 3 decades to make sure that doesn't happen. And I know some people say, well, getting people to save $100 a month, that's nothing. Well, it may not be. You can do 1,000. If you can do 1,000, do 1,000, right? But for a lot of people, just getting in the mindset, in the habit of doing it, especially if we can do it right now, right? Because everybody's listening to the news, and we're talking about inflation, we're talking about interest rates, we're talking about all these things are very real things that we're dealing with. But if we can learn to budget, if we can learn to control our spending and start to save $100 a month, and then next year we kick that up, maybe we save $150 a month, and then $200 a month, and we build this so that we have substantial wealth. Now, we understand this, that we don't necessarily want to do it in the bank because banks don't pay much. So we have a lot of interesting things. For most people, we're probably going to be recommending that you use a Roth so that you can then have those monies income tax free. And we're talking long-term goal, right? We're not talking about I'm putting this in for 6 months and then I'm going to take it out. We want you to be thinking of this as long-term savings. And so you're going to hear more and more about that. I've already did the very first one. And the reason why I was so adamant about this particular young lady being the first one is because her dad, when I got the vision to do it, when I got the vision from the Lord, I told no one but my wife. And then the next day I get an email from her, and she said her dad told her to contact me about saving $100 a month. And I felt like that was confirmation for what the Lord had told me. And so I wanted to make sure that she was the first one. So she was the first one. And so now we're going to open up the floodgates, and we're probably going to do some type of kickoff of the campaign in February is what I'm looking for. 1 year anniversary of the kickoff of the book. And by the way, I'm going to mention that too. If you have not gotten your copy of this book, go ahead and get it. My Christmas gift to you. You just go to ipadyourmoney.com. Use the discount code IPAD, IPAD 100, IPAD all caps 100, and it's yours free. Absolutely no postage, nothing. Now, I will tell you guys that have been ordering the books, it has been taking a long time for Amazon to get it to you, right? And so we're gonna solve that. We're gonna get a big enough supply where I will start to mail them out directly myself, like I did in the beginning, rather than it having to go through Amazon channels. But get your copy of the book. We will do another master class in January, probably starting January 9th. We'll do another master class on the book. So I think you all, that's all the announcements that I have for this evening. And so at this time, I want to introduce our special guest tonight. Her name is Montez Diamond, and she's the Region 4 Advocate for the Small Business Administration's Office of Advocacy. Here's her bio. Diamond served as a business resource partner that provided enterprises, anchored institutions, and municipalities with administrative solutions to support their ability to compete for government contract procurements. We know that there's a lot of contracts out there in the government, and we do need people to help us make sure we're certified and have the different things so that we can play in that ball field. She's a staunch community and business advocate, that has previously served as arbitrator for the Better Business Bureau, excuse me, civil mediator for the City of Atlanta Citizen Review Board, and juvenile delinquency mediator for Cobb County Juvenile Court. She holds a Master of Science in Conflict Management. Oh, Lord, we need to talk to her about conflict management, right? And a Bachelor's of Arts in English from Howard. HU, right? Let me tell you how I know that, because my son is at graduate school at Howard University. So without any further ado, let's bring Miss Montez Diamond onto the stage with me. Hey. How you doing?
I'm doing well. But I was attempting to really keep everything in, because once you said HU, the whole cadence is just like you did, and you delivered it well. The whole person.
I did it right.
You did it well.
Okay, good. I don't want to embarrass you or my son by coming up here and slaughtering the whole HU, right? Oh man.
Yes, that was perfect.
That was perfect. I don't know. Have you seen the I know I'm going off straight, but have you seen Black Panther 2?
I have.
And what was your thoughts on the movie?
So I attended Howard at the same time that Chadwick Boseman attended as well. I remember seeing him on campus when he was a student in the School of Fine Arts. So it was difficult watching it and remembering seeing him and individuals that knew him during the same period of time, as well as being able to watch him ascend the ladder of success as it pertains to just the cinematic world. So that portion of the movie was very heavy. However, the tribute was phenomenal. And the thing about it, though, is that oftentimes when you make comments regarding comic-based movies, when you haven't had an opportunity to actually read the various comics that correspond to the movie, you can sometimes be an ill-informed critic. So for me, I felt as if it was too long, even though I enjoyed the material. However, when I had an opportunity to sit down and be schooled by some brothers, they helped me to understand the comic correspondence portion of it, the periodical part of it. It really helped me to have a firmer understanding of why it's so long and what had to be taken into consideration regarding the storyline and things that most people just don't know if you're just not hip to that kind of information.
Right. If you're not like a Marvel connoisseur or fan or what have you.
Yes.
So yeah, I get it. I thought they made a wonderful tribute to him as well. And to me, I describe it as a very transitional movie in terms of moving from that era. And what I loved about it, and even after the first one, is understanding that the Black Panther originally appeared in Marvel Comics in, I think it was the 50s.
Okay.
Might have even been earlier than that. And the original comic with the Black Panther is that he was sent to the United States to fight the KKK.
Yes.
And so I think it's, you bring all that history in there, and I thought it was a phenomenal movie. So
that is phenomenal.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit, Montez, about yourself, a little bit of your background. I kind of put out there the HU thing there, but tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey and how you got to where you're at now.
I'm so glad that you asked me that, because I was going to ask you if it would be okay for me to actually share my testimony as to how I have become the woman that I am.
We love testimonies. Listen.
Okay.
We love testimonies. Feel free to share that. Share your heart.
Well, advocacy is something that definitely is intrinsic to who I am, primarily because I knew that I wanted to become an attorney at some point in life and never really understood the full breadth of my desires. So at the age of 15, I was involved in a car accident after school when I was in high school in the 9th grade. That it ended up being a situation where I ended up being falsely accused of stealing the actual car. So I was involved in the car accident, and so were two of my friends, and we did not steal the car. The car belonged to one of my friend's boyfriends. We were listening to music in the car after school. She started the car, and because she just had gotten her learner's permit, she was smelling herself and decided to move the car, but became agitated, and we ended up careening into the back wall of the school because she got the brake and the accelerator mixed up. So in an attempt for the owner of the car, which is her boyfriend's father, to be indemnified by way of to receive full cost of the car or coverage for the car, His father was friends with the district attorney at the time. And as a result, there was an attempt to have us incarcerated in juvenile incarceration. We had to go before Judge Hatchett, who, and this was before she was on television. And
so where did you live at the time?
at the time, I was living in Southwest Atlanta. Southwest Atlanta is where I was raised.
Okay, got it.
However, I was born in Southeast Washington, D.C. and lived in Oxon Hill, Maryland for 10 years. Nonetheless, I was raised in Southwest Atlanta. So Judge Hatchett had us come to court. We had to come to court. Our parents had to hire attorneys. That's how I became acclimated. That's how I was introduced to advocacy in the justice system. And I remember during that time, Tony, that I always told myself that whatever I ended up doing in life, it would have something to do with ensuring that I help individuals to navigate processes to ensure that their voices were heard. Because I remembered how my voice was muffled in the courtroom, because when you are a witness during any type of court case, you have to be led by your attorney in a manner in which, although you are a truth teller, if you tell too much information, the opposing counsel can use that against you and you can be harmed. Nonetheless, I still felt subjugated. I felt dehumanized throughout the entire process because I wanted to get this truth off of my chest, as in, no, we did not attempt to do this and this and this. This is who we are, but that's just not how the legal proceedings allow you to operate. And so that's when I began my journey of preparing. Now, as a 15-year-old, I was interning for the Bar Association here in Atlanta, preparing to attend Howard University. I was a pre-law student that studied English. And the various experiences at Howard University really defined who I was, running for undergraduate trustee in the political space, being the only member of the curriculum committee for the School of Arts and Sciences, where the professors were asking my opinion as to what literature should be taught the very next semesters, being able to meet the acclaimed poet Gwendolyn Brooks at Howard University, Elin Harris, these various individuals, of course, and whom else you can name, Toni Morrison, all of the great academics and poet laureates and things of that sort. I came across all these folks and it really prepared me. But what ended up happening was I did attend law school for 2 years. And I realized that, the screen just went black. I'm not sure if you can still see me.
No, we got you.
Okay.
You're full screen for us.
Okay, got you. Thank you. I attended law school for 2 years, but realized that I didn't have a love for the black letter law, and you have to have that. I had more so a love for the presentation of the law, and I ended up finding out throughout my experiences how to be able to leverage that and to use it to my best ability, which led me to this position today, serving as Region 4 advocate for the Office of Advocacy.
You know, that's so interesting, Montez, because, you know, those experiences that we have in our early years, they can really shape a lot about what we do with our lives and in our careers and that type of thing. And so what an experience to go through, right?
Right.
And, someone for their benefit can twist the truth or just flat out lie, right?
Absolutely.
Without consequences to what happens to that person. It makes me think about Till, the movie, right? And Till, just a flat out lie and use it for their own personal gain.
Yes.
And so, and I imagine that really put probably a bad taste in your mouth early on in terms of those type of things. But it sounds like you used it to kind of fuel what you wanted to do with your life.
Absolutely. It has helped me to do so many more things. Although I didn't become an actual practicing attorney, I worked as a paralegal for 12 years. I've had an opportunity to help individuals who are incarcerated to formulate their various arguments and their various briefs, and to be able to stand in a pro se manner. I had an opportunity to represent myself in court a number of times as well regarding labor disputes. So I've been extremely prepared and I've been qualified. God qualifies the unqualified anyway. So I definitely have been supported and have been covered my entire life.
So your position with the Small Business Administration. So first of all, I think most people probably know what the Small Business Administration is. Right. But if I were to ask you this question, what is the purpose of the Small Business Administration? What is its overall purpose?
Its overall purpose is to provide products and services to ensure that small businesses are effective as it pertains to the business landscape.
Okay. So Small Business Administration, huge organization, I'm assuming.
It's
And
actually very
then
small.
really,
It's one of the smallest organizations, and it's just turned 70 years old recently. So it's an old organization as well.
okay. But it is part of the federal government, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how is the Small Business Administration governed? Is it appointed by the president, or how is the governance handled there? Do you know?
So how they refer to the head SBA administrator, her name is Isabel Guzman. She is appointed by the president of the United States by way of confirmation by the Senate. And within the SBA, they have housed various departments like any other federal agency. So you have your federal agencies, and then you have your sub agencies, smaller agencies. And so the SBA operates in the same manner, as in it has various departments and various heads of departments, things of that sort.
Okay. And so the particular department that you work in is advocacy.
Yes.
And what is that? What do
So
you
the
guys
Office
do?
of Advocacy was created in 1970, actually 1976, as an independent voice for small businesses and federal government to serve as a watchdog agency. And it actually is independently funded, and initially it was provided as a source of business statistics. However, it definitely was mandated in creation on hardcore law to ensure that you have an opportunity for small businesses to be able to comment on federal regulation and legislation. So the work that I do is provided to a chief of counsel that has been appointed by the president of the United States. And so the work that I do in the field, I have to provide reports to ensure the information is translated, and it is then sent to our current president. So to inform him of the significance and the impact of our office.
So here's the thing. When we get down to this,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people, there's a lot of rumblings, there's a lot of studies that came out, especially recent because of COVID, right? Because we've been in COVID now, it seemed like 3 years or what have you.
Right.
And there was a lot of people that felt like minority businesses, maybe even women-owned business,
Mm-hmm.
did not get their fair share of aid and their fair share of relief as it relates to COVID in particular.
Mm-hmm.
It your office someplace that would kind of look at some of those, or if a small business said, "Hey, listen, we're concerned about the way this has went." How would you guys get involved in that type of thing in terms of small businesses having their voices heard?
So our office operates independently of the majority of SBA offices. However, we are collaborative, as in when our office has business roundtables, and we can also have business listening sessions, we will invite SBA administrators, direct deputies, as well as area directors to attend the meetings to be able to speak to specifically how to access capital, lending opportunities, and things of that sort. Because from our office, we can't discuss that.
Mhm.
However, I can discuss it as a small business owner. Nonetheless, there's a preference for the representation from the actual SBA that deals with the actual products and services, that they speak to that more so than we can. What we can do is provide small business statistics, as well as access to information about various legislation that is being provided for comment for small businesses to be able to attend these sessions, to speak to the heads of federal agencies to let them know how the legislation impacts the manner in which small businesses are managed, how they profit, how it impacts their revenue, things of that sort.
So Montez, can you give us some examples? Like, I don't know if this is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all know that we don't really prepare for these interviews. We come in, we want to get the raw data, right? So if I ask a question you don't know, that's cool. But here's the thing. What are some of the things that are like maybe in the pipeline, or things that maybe in committee or something that has an impact on small businesses that we need to know about?
Sure.
because I think that there's a lot of things that's probably happens that we as small business owners have no idea what's going on. So can you clue us in on some of the things that we should be aware of that's coming down the pipeline or maybe being discussed?
Sure, absolutely. There are some particular commenting periods and legislation issues for small business to be aware of. And I also have some in-house information from the SBA that will be of help to your audience as well. And I also like to come back and circle back around to the question you asked about COVID too, to provide some enlightenment about the matter at heart.
Okay.
Because I know that it's a serious issue. And however, small businesses can be a part of the solution. When I'm talking about opportunities provided from my office, these are penetrable opportunities to transform as well as to use your agency as a small business stakeholder as it pertains to the policy and legislation process. This is something where you don't have to worry about, how to volley power regarding, do I have to choose the difference between two evils when it comes to individuals running for office positions? This is something that small businesses can directly participate in because they are looking to hear from small businesses, because typically within these rooms, you'll have lobbying groups, special interest groups that are represented, but many small businesses are not represented to provide their particular voice about what really matters. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the commenting period information that's offered. So around December the 13th, between December the 13th of this year, small businesses have an opportunity to comment on the publishing of a rule from the Department of Labor. So each time you have a new administration, you have various administrations that have put certain things in place. During the Trump administration, there are many things that he upended and usurped that had already been put in place. Something that has been changed by the Biden administration is an attempt to change the criteria that is being used to determine the difference between what is an independent contractor and what is considered to be an employee. This is an issue primarily for small businesses because during COVID, there was a wellspring of new entrepreneurs into the market. And as a result, there was much confusion as to how small businesses were actually reporting their income to the IRS, things of that sort. So there's now an independent contractor proposed rule to determine whether a worker is an employee or an independent contractor, because the employer must analyze this, whether or not the worker is economically dependent on the employer for work or is in the business for themselves. And according to this rule, why small businesses need to provide their agency and their power is because the rule has become extremely now a bit convoluted. They're now trying to take too many things into consideration. So as a small business, you can comment on regulatory.gov regarding and submit your comments about how, when you have a chance to read through the ruling and have a better understanding as to how this impacts you, whether or not it is written in a manner in which you can understand it, whether or not it takes certain things into consideration, whether or not it does not. So that's one way in which small businesses can participate. Something else.
Can I go back to that? Because I think that's such a huge issue, Montez, because we know that there was some legislation out in California where, if you're a gig employee, we call them gig employees, and we're talking about like an Uber driver or DoorDash or Lyft and those type of positions. Right. And there's this real battle of, are these independent contractors or their employees? And that's a big deal. And I know a lot of small businesses that have independent contractors. They don't necessarily have employees because there's some tax advantages to that. And then there's some cases where those independent contractors really want to be classified as employees and all these type of things. And I know that the IRS even has like their guidelines of, do you control their day and some of these other things that they do in order to determine if they're an independent contractor or if they're an employee. That's a pretty major piece of legislation.
It is. So what happens is during business roundtables, you'll have attorneys that will discuss the actual rule. You'll have the heads of federal agencies to explain the actual rule as well. And then comments are submitted on behalf of people that participate. Or they can also provide comment on their own as well as it pertains to these actual rules. And this is why this is extremely important for small businesses to be able to do such, to ensure that there's an ease of burden to their various business to ensure that they have a high amount of economic activity within their industry and that they can continue to do very well, so to speak.
Yeah,
So that's
and
just
you mentioned something too, is like, do you depend on it? Because I think, like, if I think about an Uber driver, and that's what they do full time, and there are some people that do that. That's all they do. Is
right.
like, if they're dependent on Uber for their living, it almost sounds like that the way this could go is they would be considered an employee of Uber because they're dependent on it. So I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but I just find that very interesting.
Absolutely. I gave some misinformation. It's regulations.gov where you can personally submit your comment. Regulations with an S, not regulation.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep. Another rule that is up for discussion has to deal with the National Labor Relations Board. It is a rule expanding the standard for determining joint employer status under the National Labor Relations Act. So what also serves as a benefit is that our office can provide you a concise explanation of everything. You don't have time as an entrepreneur to read through a whole bunch of pages of rules and laws and legislation, but you do need a snippet of information to be able to understand how would I formulate my comment? How would I actually position how I feel, how something is impacting me? And we can provide you with the base notes, so to speak, regarding this information. Just like I'm going through it right now, this is something that our office can provide too. This particular rule deals with determining the definition of a joint employer status. And joint employer status is really important, specifically if you are a business and you deal with subcontractors, to determine whether or not you have direct or indirect control over your worker. So if you're a subcontractor, you may then have another sub clause or something like that, where if you may have a more relaxed manner in which you work with your employee, but if another company that you have a joint agreement with has a different understanding, things can collide and things can become very convoluted if you haven't determined exactly who is the one that's supposed to have the position of power over that subcontractor or that employee within that agreement. And so being able to provide comments about this is going to be really important. It really impacts particularly folks that are contractors, subcontractors, temporary help service suppliers, users, franchisees, as well as participants in labor unions. So that's why this is extremely important for small business owners that fall under that umbrella of those categories need to provide comment about how something like this impacts their businesses.
Well, and again, this is another area that we talk to small business owners about, is that sometimes we got to collaborate, right? Sometimes we got to come together, and because many times our businesses don't have the scale to go in and do it ourselves. So we have to subcontract with others. So we might be a subprime ourselves. We're not the prime, we're subprime.
Right.
And then as a subprime, I'm going to either sub out even further down the chain. So then who has control over that ultimate person that's on the work floor or on the construction site?
Exactly. And it also really impacts your human relations and your human capital representatives understanding as to how you actually deal with the conditions of employment. That can become very sketchy within your various contracts and can also hurt you as it pertains to when you have various people that you bring on board, however you decide to do things. 1099 individuals, if you have W-2, W-4 types of documentation, how you are manning the employment part of the process, even when you're dealing with subcontractors, so that you have a better understanding of the legalese part of your contracts regarding how you hire various people to come on board. So those are two main examples that you have an opportunity, small businesses, to comment. You have until December the 13th to do so. So being in contact with me will really be able to help you to leverage this opportunity.
So, and this might be outside of your, but you've been in business and you're part of the SBA. But I wonder, where does nonprofits fall in relation to SBA and what you guys do? Because I know that there's a lot of people that watch our show that have a small nonprofit, and they've been declared a 501(c). Some of them might be in the process of that.
Okay.
As a nonprofit, does the SBA work the same with them? They're just a nonprofit small business, or is that totally outside of the SBA?
So I would recommend foremost to take advantage of their SCORE representatives, the volunteer business coaches that are provided through SCORE that provide an understanding as to how you act. It's free business coaching, basically. And every state should have SCORE representatives, and contacting them to be able to give you a lay of the landscape as to how the SBA can provide help to you, or if they can't, or what's the best plan of action as to how you will access that help.
Well, that's a wonderful idea, and we do know there's one individual that I'm familiar with. Her name is Donna Johnson, that's here in Charlotte, and she is a SCORE coach.
Mm-hmm.
It'd probably be a great idea for have her come on our show sometime and kind of share a little bit about SCORE and what they do there. That's I had not thought about that until you mentioned SCORE, but that's a great resource as well.
That's a great entree into the SBA. Oftentimes people have discussed how they have a hard time getting in contact with someone. I would suggest starting with SCORE, because those are individuals that are volunteering their time. They have represented various reputable businesses, so they are not new to what they've done, and they're able to give you an understanding, and they can also help you to access further training to undergird your business.
Now, in you, as far as I know that your region includes what states again?
It includes Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee.
Well, you got them states. Boy, you got them southern states, girl.
Yes, the whole Southeast, basically.
And so then in each of those states, there's SCORE. There's SCORE. I don't know what they're called, coaches, or
Yes. Mm-hmm.
okay, SCORE coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing who your SCORE coach is in your particular area could
Mm-hmm.
be important, because, and that's not something that you pay for. I mean, that's a service, a resource that we have available to us that we can use by contacting our SCORE coach.
Absolutely.
Great. So when it comes to procurement, I know that's not your area now, but you worked in it.
Sure.
What advice would you give business owners now that want to get some of these government contracts that are out and that type of thing? What would you tell them they should be doing?
I would tell them that they need to have relationships in their local areas, local, county, state, then federal. Once you've played in the pond with to find out what's going on locally, then I would suggest attempting to approach the federal level but it requires two different plans of action, because the manner in which the state funds itself is different as to how the federal government funds itself. Mm-hmm. Completely different timelines as it pertains to quarters, things of that sort too. So that's extremely important to be aware of. I would also suggest that many small businesses believe that they need to speak with a contracting officer, when in actuality, it's not the contracting officer you need to speak with. You need to be speaking with the business specialists or the procurement specialists that are available. Sure. Also, I would recommend forming a relationship with your Office of Small Business Development and Utilization offices in your state. The Office of Small Business Development and Utilization within your state. Also, follow up with your PAC Center. We have the Georgia Tech Procurement Assistance Center. So a PAC Center is a PACT. The PAC centers oftentimes are funded in a manner in which they also provide necessary and free coaching as it pertains to acquiring federal contracts. Once you have a business that is established and managed well, and you reach out to become a client of that PAC center, you receive access to something called BidNet. BidNet typically is a service that will provide you with or help you to remain abreast of government contracting opportunities for free. RFPs. Right. RFPs, RFIs, requests for production of documents, requests for quote, sources sought, all those various opportunities that help to be able to align you and place you in a position to be competitive within the market. So those are about the 4 things that I would suggest off top regarding government contracting.
And one of the things I think is the challenge sometimes when we think about government contractors, contracting, you see a lot with like DOT and those type of things. But I think there should be opportunities to do other things like financial literacy. And I was looking at Harvey made a comment there. Dress for success and these types of things that could go out to bid that a business or a nonprofit could, maybe bid on so that they can get some of that work. Because I think workforce development is still a big deal.
It is.
And so, you could even be contracted to work with people who've been displaced from their job or displaced because of COVID, and they need to get back in the workplace and they don't even know where to begin. They don't know how to do a resume. They don't know how to dress or, those types of things as well. Because sometimes we get comfortable, right? And we've been working from home and we go showing up at an interview with a suit on and a pair of shorts because we've been sitting behind this Zoom camera all this time, right? So I think those are some really good things. Now, I know you are a business owner yourself. I mean, so if I could get you to switch hats for a minute and tell us a little bit about your business.
Oh, sure. The name of my business is The Conflict Cookie, where we take the bite out of everyday business contracting conflicts. So that is an opportunity where I provide enterprises as well as small businesses and individuals with data, provide them access to that data as they are journeying to pursue local, state, and federal procurement opportunities. So I help to walk them through the process of doing that.
So you call it Conflict Cookie.
Yes.
So where did that name come from? I think that's kind of interesting.
It actually was a suggestion from a woman that was working on one of my very first websites. She referred to me as, oh, you're kind of like a conflict cookie. And that was when I was actually heavy within mediation prior to COVID. And that's actually where I made my business pivot into government contracting, was because the contracts for mediation, it was highly competitive and they were going more so towards retiring judges and or attorneys who had more senior experience. And of course, people needed that particular level of experience along many legal landscapes. And there were not as many mediation opportunities. So I said, well, I'm already working within government. What are some ways in which I can be able to help serve, resolve some problems and provide solutions? And that's the decision that I made.
Awesome. Because I think one of the things, again, and if my co-host was here, she'd say, turn your passion into profit, right? And so that's what we do, is we find a need. And I was talking to a young lady today, and she's doing some things with starting a nonprofit, helping teachers kind of deal with what they're going through, right? They have short of resources, short of teachers, and it's almost like having therapy for the teachers. Like it's a place where they can deal with the conflicts that they're experiencing on the work. And I see that kind of when I read that about conflict management,
right.
That's really huge because a lot of people, they don't like to deal with conflict, and they'll put their head in the sand and act that it's not existing, and then it blows up.
Right.
So, awesome. So if someone, and we have people in your region, if someone wanted to, you mentioned a business roundtable, if they wanted to host, or if they wanted to somehow see a business roundtable happen in their particular city, if Harvey wants to do a business roundtable in Birmingham, if we wanted to do one here in Charlotte where we brought businesses together, and honestly, we're particularly interested in Black and brown businesses, right? Black businesses. If we wanted to bring together a round table, is that something that your office would then support? And so, if so, how would we go about doing that?
Absolutely. My suggestion would be one of two things. It can be virtual, and or if you want it to be more intimate, it can be in person. The reason why I suggest it being intimate is because then you could be invited to the actual area and district SBA administration centers. So then you're actually in the room with those various representatives, and they can answer your questions specifically because it's more of an intimate setting. In the event that it's something that is virtual, I would suggest that on my end, I can reach out to the various constituents that I work with to see how we could actually set that up. One thing I did not mention was that there are 3 buckets that my office serves. We use economists, we use the legalese, the lawyers that provide the research regarding legislation. And then the third bucket is myself, which consists of 10 region advocates throughout the United States. And we basically support small businesses in an outreach manner. So those various economists, as well as lawyers, they all have different categories that they work with, so that we cover all of these various lanes of small business that deals with issues regarding the environment, EPA chemicals, interregulatory issues in education, veteran affairs, economic regulation that deals with the Treasury, that deals with USDA, that deals with travel and tourism, that deals with various SBA programs, deals with agriculture, energy, and natural resources, telecom, intellectual property, environment, regulatory reform, labor and immigration, food, drug, and health, security, safety, transportation, tax securities and pensions, procurement, and small businesses as well. So I could contact those various individuals. It's one person per those categories that I just named out to find out, hey, are there some particular regulations that are coming down the pipeline? Can we set up a small business roundtable and or a small business listening session where you have an opportunity to say, hey, this is what's going on with us within these industries, and we need to provide comment, which is extremely empowering. A really great example of a business that just made some really great comments and have sent it regarding feedback to the SBA is, hold on right quick. This is where I want to pull out my various reports that I was talking about earlier. There is a business that provided feedback that they wanted to provide to the SBA. And as a result, they submitted their comments to the SBA. And their comments to the SBA specifically dealt with the fact that they believe that the SBA is antiquated and had outdated practices that does not represent the current technological state of society. And this had to deal with specifically with Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs has a 10,000 small business program. Yep. And one of the individuals that's involved with that program, their program deals with small businesses. And so they provided their comment and submitted it to the SBA. And the SBA is definitely in the process of revamping many of their platforms as well as their programming to be able to meet the needs of this particular stakeholder. So commenting, which is what we've been discussing the entire time, and being able to really talk to small businesses about exerting their transformative positioning as well as their agency and their power is extremely important.
So this is awesome because I think the two things that many business owners talk about is a lack of voice and a lack of capital, right? So right. If I could get capital, if I can get my voice heard, if I could, right. Those types of things are very important. And so, and speaking of voice, we hope that people's voice are being heard down in Georgia today. Yes. We understand that there's been record turnout for the votes down there. So we'll see we'll run to the end and see what the results are. Montez, I really want to just thank you for taking the time to join us and share. You are a wealth of information. As you were talking about some of this stuff and it was rolling off your tongue, I was like, man, she either got an incredible mind and memory, or she got a teleprompter. It's one of the two, because she just kind of rolling it off. And so we appreciate that. Dante does have your information scrolling on the screen right now. And so we just want to if anyone has any questions or anything, make sure you reach out to Montez. And like I said, I think most of our listeners are, I did see some people in California that were on, but I know
there was some information I wanted to share too with you.
Oh, please do.
If you have enough time, there is some information I wanted to share just within the SBA that your audience will be able to benefit from.
Please do.
So something in particular, the SBA just issued a final rule as it pertains to small disadvantaged veteran-owned small businesses. Now it has been brought in-house to specifically allow small disadvantaged veteran small businesses to be able to certify their businesses. You can self-certify as a small disadvantaged veteran-owned small business owner, as well as a veteran small business owner. You can self-certify, and you can, as of January 1st, 2023, they will open the portal to certify your business as either a small disadvantaged veteran business or a veteran-owned small business. This is why this is so important. You won't have to go to a third-party supplier to be able to do that. You won't have to pay $500, $800 for someone else to certify that for you. You can self-certify. You can certify for yourself. Your business can go through the process using the portal, the SBA portal, to do it for yourself. This keeps money in your pocket as a small business owner, which is very important.
So if I'm a veteran-owned business, I can certify as a veteran-owned business or a veteran-owned disadvantaged business. Tell me the difference between the veteran-owned and the veteran disadvantaged business. And does it make a difference in terms of when they're placing a bid, in terms of having priority on some of that type of work that's being contracted?
That's an excellent question. It does. It actually provides another tier or another layer as it pertains to providing a set aside for contracts. So within the federal government contracting space, federal companies have to be able to provide a certain amount of contracting opportunities to the side for small disadvantaged, economically disadvantaged, women-owned, minority-owned businesses. So having that classification to check the box, so to speak, definitely would serve those particular businesses as it pertains to veterans in a very positive manner.
Awesome. All right.
Absolutely. There's another opportunity where the administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has announced a groundbreaking joint initiative to drive investment as it pertains to entrepreneurs scaling critical and emerging technologies. That was done today. It is now there is an agreement that has been signed between the SBA and the Department of Defense. So when we're talking about the Department of Defense, we're talking about huge contracts that provide businesses an opportunity to have access to revenue for, sometimes they can start off with 3-year base contracts of 5-year base contract for you to be having consistent ongoing revenue, which is something that, as we talk about access to capital for businesses, this will provide businesses with a revenue, an ongoing revenue, so that you don't have to worry about, okay, is this a net 30? And then is there going to be some type of stagnation in the payment, things of that sort. So this was announced as an opportunity.
That was signed today.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this is brand new.
Off the press, y'all.
Not today. Maybe this was December the 3rd, excuse me. The information started rolling out around December the 3rd.
Okay.
So this is an opportunity because they're looking for technological companies that are innovative, that are cutting edge, that have solutions to problems within government. So when we're also talking about opportunities, something that small businesses should consider in the contracting space is providing unsolicited contract opportunities, where you actually submit your information through that small business representative to find out, hey, I have an unsolicited response, as in, on my end as a small business, I see a need that needs to be fulfilled. Here is my idea. And you submit your idea and you see if they're willing to provide a space and or create the publishing of an opportunity for it to be responded to publicly.
Well, and I think you said something there too, because you said unsolicited, because sometimes we think that it has to come out as an RFP or it comes out as something, but sometimes there's opportunity to submit unsolicited bid. So if I see a need in the federal government and I want to submit a bid to fulfill that need unsolicited, you're saying that's possible.
Absolutely, you can do that for sure. Matter of fact, that's how people end up. Let's say, for instance, if you're in like the printing space and you may feel as if, hey, I don't see that there's a newsletter created, a digital newsletter created to be able to announce various opportunities in the area to connect businesses and with governance. And you submit that to whichever agency. You say, hey, I really like for your agency to be able to increase its visibility on a digital scale periodically as well. You can submit that as an opportunity, and then they can tell you, and then you can then have a request for quote. You then send them how much you believe you should be compensated for your idea.
There you go, Dante. Man, you need to submit this thing. Say, hey, the government, the Department of Defense needs a monthly video streaming where they announce all the new changes. Or I'm just making something up, but I got you.
No, absolutely. There is another opportunity. Actually, this is for California. The California Department of Social Services has $150 million appropriated in grants for new construction and major renovation of child care programs. The funds should be used to make extensive alterations, structural changes, or major renovations to existing child care facilities and for construction to build new child care spaces. The grant must be used to increase licensed spaces. And they're willing to do a commitment to do a 10% funding match according to the applicant's eligibility as to whether or not they actually can do so. This is going to be for the purpose to preserve, enhance, and expand childcare development and preschool opportunities for children up to 5 years of age by providing grants to renovate, repair, modernize, retrofit, or build new licensed childcare facilities. And although this is provided in California, I would think that there are other states that probably have other monies that are not being discussed, which is 3 resources I want to share with their community as well. When you're in the contracting space, you definitely have to be able to maneuver these 3 websites well. USAspending.gov, acquisitions.
USA Spending?
USAspending.gov. USAspending.gov will be able to tell you how much every federal agency, as well as state agency, as well as sub-agencies, how much they have paid businesses in contracting monies down to the decimal and the comma. How many of these people receive COVID funds? When you're trying to figure out, oh, well, we don't know who received it, it's published. It tells you what companies. It is published down to your district. As in, I live in district number 5, the Honorable John Lewis's district here in Southwest Atlanta. It provides in his district what companies receive the COVID funding and what they got it for. On acquisition.gov, you can be able to access forecast reports for every major agency and sub-agency to understand what opportunities are available contract-wise that exist now and or will be forecasted for the next funding cycle. These websites that I'm sharing with you, they are all free. You don't even have to create an account. You just go on and you start researching.
What was the second one?
Acquisition.
Acquisition.gov.
And then the last, acquisition.gov. The last one is the GSA e-library. The GSA e-library. The reason why the GSA e-library is a powerful website is because oftentimes businesses don't know how to price their services. Individuals who are doing business with the government at times can use a GSA contract as a contract vehicle to provide discounted services to the government to sell products and services. Within that is housed information about all of your competitors. You can do market research on the GSA e-library. They also provide information such as descriptions for the positions that you may have to hire for people, whether it's analyst positions and you need to know, oh, what's the verbiage I should use for the criteria. They also provide how much those individuals should be getting paid per hour so that you don't have to go through some type of calculation as to, I don't know how much I should pay people. Well, go on the GSA e-library, have an understanding of your NACE codes, which are codes that are specifically attributable to the products and goods and services that you're using to sell to the federal government. And you can be able to access this information for free to empower yourself as a small business, to transform yourself, and to enhance your agency as a small business owner.
Well, and as far as that goes, it's not even how much I need to pay, but sometimes I don't know how much I need to charge for my own labor hours.
Right.
Because sometimes we don't want to price ourselves out of being competitive on a bid, but then again, you don't want to be so low that you're not getting what you're worth. So those are some great resources.
Sure.
So this was a lot of great information for a lot of people. A little different than what we normally do, a little bit more pinpointed, but I'm glad we did it because we have these resources. I met you here in Charlotte at the All Black National Conference Convention, and so look forward to continuing to work with you and hopefully get you over here to Charlotte to do something with our small businesses.
Please invite me so I can come and I can be able to serve as a bridge between me and your SBA administrators. Trust, when I come to town, I will be inviting them. My goal is for them to always be in the room, because I know what makes the room shake is conversations about money and accessing capital. So they need to be in the room.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, listen, you guys, you got a wealth of information tonight. If you know anybody, a small business owner, contractor, let them know. If they did not hear this tonight, go to our YouTube page. You click on live, and this will be there tomorrow where they can go back and listen to this whole broadcast and get this information. So, Montez, thank you so much for being here. Let me just say this now. Have a Merry Christmas, and we look forward to connecting you with some folks and connecting even more into the new year.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate your time, as well as entrusting me enough to have access to your audience. I wish everyone wellness and peace throughout this entire holiday season, that you may be covered, your friends and your family alike, that you may prosper in every way, that your territory is expanded beyond belief in your business and in all facets of your life. So I'm greatly honored to be able to speak before you as well as your constituency.
Thank you. You almost started preaching there, girl. I thought you was going to come on out with the scripture, right?
Well, it's another conversation. My church did ask me to become a deaconess this year, so I'm in training. So for sure.
All right, there you go. Well, listen, folks, thank you for being here. We're going to be back with you next week, same time, same channel, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and also remember to catch the show on Saturday morning at 7:30. Next week, we're going to be giving you some information to prepare for filing your taxes in 2023 for 2022. It's important. So we're going to have Timothy Day will be with us to give us some updates on the taxes. So make sure you tune in, because I know y'all want to pay less in taxes. We all do. All right. You've been watching the Real Money Coach Show. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.